Chapter 6, Arrays and Array Lists, Part 2. So the array index number is a subscript that allows you to reference each element in the array. Note that they start at 0. Java uses only 0-based arrays. That means the subscript of every array is 0. The last subscript in the array is 1 less than the total elements in the array because we start counting at 0. So in this case, the values array has a first index of 0 and a last index of 9. Bounds checking is used in Java to make sure that you don't exceed the size of the array. If you do exceed the size of the array, it is a runtime error and your program will crash. So we check, as in the case of this if statement, if 0 is less than or equal to I, that means we're not below the lower bound of the array, and I is less than values.length. Values.length is the total number of elements in the array. Then we can access value sub I. Oh yeah. Notice there is a typo, unfortunately, in this slide, and I am unable to fix these little typos because they are graphics from the publisher. But value sub I in this gray area should be values sub I. So value is a int variable, but values is the array variable. So values sub I equals value, as long as I is not outside the bounds of the array. So to summarize, when declaring arrays, you use the data type followed by square brackets, followed by the name of the array, and then you can say how big it is, equals new int. If you use the keyword new will go out and allocate enough memory for however many elements you want as specified in the square brackets. It's also useful to use a constant, as in final int length equals 10, and then you can use that constant value throughout your program rather than the number 10. The reason, or any number, whatever the length of your array, the reason for this is we try to avoid just putting numbers in our code because we call those magic numbers, meaning what are they? If we declare a constant, as in final int length equals 10, it's more descriptive than just using the number 10. The length doesn't need to be a constant, so if you don't know how many elements you want in the array, the user is going to enter that, for example. You can put that in a variable while your code is running and then declare the array while the program is running. You can also use initializer list syntax, as in int square brackets squares equals open curly brace 0, 1, 4, 9, 16, close curly brace, and semicolon. Java's smart enough to go, oh, there's 5 integers here, so I'm going to create an array that's 5 elements long. You can also create an array of strings, as in string square brackets friends equals open brace double quote Emily, close double quote, comma Bob, comma Cindy, close brace, semicolon. It is an error to specify a different data type on either side of the assignment operator, as shown on the last row of this table. So an array reference is the array name. The array name contains the address of where that array is stored in memory. You can think of that like a handle, or for those of you who've programmed in C or C++, perhaps you can think of that as a pointer. It references the memory chunk where that array is stored. An array alias is when you have 2 names to reference the same chunk in memory. If you use, in this example, if you use scores or values, they both reference the same spot in memory. And unfortunately, there is another typo on this slide where it says int square brackets values. That should be int with a lowercase I. You can use partially filled arrays. If you create an array but don't use all the elements, you can use a temporary variable such as int current size equals 0, where current size keeps track of how many elements in that array you're actually using. This is useful if you don't want to fill all of your array initially, if you are only using part of the array. If we want to walk or traverse a partially filled array, we set up a for loop and loop from int I equals 0, I less than current size, I plus plus, where current size is how many elements are currently in the array. Note that we do not use values.length because that would reference all of those array elements that we haven't yet used. It's common to have bounds errors, and that will give you in this yellow box at the bottom, you see java.lang.array index out of bounds exception. That is what you will get if in your code you exceed the bounds of the array. Pretty cool thing is that notice the last line where it says out of bounds.java:7. That 7 means that the error occurred at line 7. So in NetBeans, you can go and look at your line 7 and say, okay, my problem is right here. And if we look at this code, we can see that we have values sub 10 equals 100. There is no values sub 10. There are 10 elements in the array, so the last element is values sub 9. It's also a common error to use uninitialized arrays, as in when we say double square bracket values. Note we don't have initializer list syntax in that example. We don't use the keyword new and tell it how many elements we have. So excuse me, I lost my train of thought. So in that example, our values are uninitialized, and we can't say values sub 0 equals 29.95 because values sub 0 does not exist. We haven't declared the array yet. We've only said we're going to have a reference to an array, but we haven't gone and allocated the memory. So that is a problem. And down at the bottom, notice when we say double square bracket values equals new double 10, that's when we go out and allocate the memory. That keyword new or the initializer list syntax will get us those elements in the array. And then we can say values sub 0 equals 29.95.